Balaur Arms Teutonic Sword. I'm pretty sure all the Balaur Arms scabbards come with the same riser positioning, so this should work for all of them. Although this suspension system isn't necessarily historically accurate for the later period swords, and if you don't care, it should still work. It is made up of two belts. So you've got the upper part of the belt, which kind of form, I guess you could say, the buckle. It's about 3 feet long, a little over 3 feet long. You've got your teardrop shaped cuts here. Make sure that the bottoms are not just like you've cut from a point out. You probably want to do like a leather punch down here at the bottom, because that's going to prevent it from just tearing open. And then you want to have a pretty good wide rounded cut here for the same reason, just prevent tearing. The other side is for me at least, is 4 feet long. This is the lower half. One side is a loop stitched together. I've done sinew, but you could use waxed thread or whatever you want to use. Again, where it divides into two thongs, a wide cut. The thongs aren't as long here. If you're gonna wear mail, or you're gonna change between a thicker waist or a smaller waist, depending on what you're wearing, these may need to be longer or shorter depending on what you're wearing at the time. Otherwise you'll have this weird knot down here with a big gap. So I would say wear your or at least give yourself some room. I think it kind of looks silly. Anyway, so I'll show you real quick. All you really need to do on the scabbard is a few cuts at the top. It doesn't need to be exactly like mine. I like the thicker chunks of scabbard leather lifted up, especially on these scabbards, because the leather is real thin and I didn't want it to tear if I had a bunch of small cuts. So I've just done 4 cuts at the top, and apologize if you can't see it too well. Using X-Acto knife for a box cutter, and then 1 cut at the bottom. Make sure it's above this riser. And I'll show you how to thread everything. Hopefully I can remember. Mine's already been done, so it's in a little different state than probably a fresh one would be made. But actually interlacing it will be the same. So this is how it's going to lay for a right-handed person. For a left-handed person, it's going to be reversed. But you'll want this, part with the 2 cutouts with the front of the scabbard facing up. Obviously, you want your outer leather part facing out as well. And when you cut these slits, there's a little bit of glue that holds the leather to the wood core. So you might need a awl or screwdriver or something to kind of carefully pry it up. And then for me at least, we use some needle nose pliers to kind of grab the tongue sometimes and pull it out. Mine kind of sit high just from having already done this and having it put together for a while, so I can just kind of slide them through usually. But I'll show you what I mean. So if I want to just grab and pull, that'll make it easier for when you're first doing it. So you've got your top part here, pull that in a little ways, take the bottom thong, pass it through the bottom section here. So make sure you don't get twisted. Pull those through. You want to get to where you have about 1 inch of a gap here, because you're going to have to pass one of the thongs through. So on the back, this is where people get, I think, a little thrown off. The top one is basically just going to be kind of crossed over, and the bottom one will be coming over the loop, kind of like this. here, but then it's going to come through the gap and then pulled. So let me tighten it up so it's a little easier to see. So you can see here I've come, the top thong comes around, goes under, the bottom thong goes around, comes up and through, and then you worry about tightening it up at the end. Sometimes what I like to do is just cross this one over, so that way I've got an over and I've got an under. The friction will just kind of keep it a little tighter. On the other side now, we've got the cross because each side is coming around. It's not necessary, but I think it's important to cut a small slit parallel here on, doesn't matter which one, but one of these thongs. And that way what you can do is pass the other thong through this one, and this will kind of hold it in place so you don't have a lopsided X on your scabbard. So like that. And that'll allow you to kind of pull it tight. Make sure you're using pretty thick leather. I don't know exactly what, I can't remember, it's been a while since I bought it, what width or weight this leather is, but it's at least double what the Scabbard leather is. So pretty thick, but not too thick, otherwise it'd be kind of hard to do. So now you've got this part down, you're ready for the second belt. This one will be facing the opposite direction. So for this scabbard, I wanted to be able to kind of change the belt out if I needed to treat it or replace it pretty easy, so nothing is stitched permanently to the scabbard leather itself. So I just slide it up. The risers make a good seat for it. And on the back of the loop, I've actually cut 2 slits diagonally. You'll probably kind of want to hold your leather here as you're doing it to kind of find the angle. And this part will be a little tricky to show you because there's going to be something going on behind here that you can't see. But you're going to take one of the thongs and pass it into the slit here. And I may need my needle nose here. There we go. So then what I'm going to do, hopefully I can grab it here. Yes, pull it back out on the other side. And me having these tassels cut into it makes it a pain in the ass. Yeah, don't be like me and there we go. Okay, so I've got those in there, and back to what we're doing. You can see now we're coming through here, and on mine, this one is the lower thong. Goes through this cut, goes down around, and goes through this cut. So then you're going to take the other loose end, and in the back here, because we've passed this thong through these slits, there's going to be a little gap. I don't know if you can see it, but if you give it some slack, you'll actually pass the second thong between the loop and under the other thong. So Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say here. So now we've got another X on the back, passing through the loop and then between the loop and the thong. So that's really the whole thing. Once you get to this point, people will do all sorts of stuff with the other ends. Some people will tie them off in the back somewhere to where you can't even see it. I kind of like them hanging down in the front, so I've cut a slit here, and I usually just pass the ends through and then tie some sort of knot off. Not like a super crazy knot, because if I want to tighten everything, I'll kind of undo it and then pull on these and slowly kind of work everything back down so that it's all nice and tight. But yeah, however you want to do it here. Some people will do a fancy kind of square knot. I just kind of loop it together so that it's not going to come undone. That's the whole thing. As far as wearing it, you would just place it on your hip, and I think Todd's Workshop has a good video on the knot for this. I always forget, but you just pass both ends through, and hopefully it kind of sits well so you don't have that big cut just going through your belt. I think Todd's method is to take both ends, make a loop, go over and down here, and because it is leather and it's pretty, backside has a pretty good amount of friction, and that's all there is to it. So it'll sit, kind of as low as you need it or as tight as you need it, and will stay in place pretty well. So hopefully that made sense. If not, just let me know, and I'll answer any questions you have.